Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Zack, Hewlett, and Jack Bryce here again today, and we are joined from across the pond by our friend Tobias Halford. Tobias, tell us where you're calling from tonight.
Hello, I'm calling from a place called Billingham in the northeast of England.
Billingham. Okay, very cool. Well, we appreciate you taking time to come on. Our prior conversation, it sounds like you've been listening to the podcast and you're familiar with the format. So do you want to just start out pre-mission and kind of the lead up to your mission call, and we can go from there?
Yeah. That'd be great. Yes, so probably a bit about me, actually. With my family, I've got 3 sisters and 4 brothers. And then before my mission, I left school at 16. I did a year art and design, and then I did hairdressing for 2 years.
That's right.
I went out when I was 19. I was actually speaking to someone about this the other day because I remember one of my young men's leaders, he didn't go on his mission till later, but he said to me, he said about going on your mission when you feel like it's the right thing and when you feel like the Spirit telling you that you need to go. And I was really glad he told me that, because I think at the time, I was 19 in the March, and then I finished my college course in like July. So I was a bit older when I went, not by that much, but a slight bit older. But I just felt like it was the right thing to do, really. I just really felt it was the right thing to do, and I had a lot of support from people in the ward. So that was it really before mission. And then I got the call to Scotland. One of the members in our ward, he worked for church offices when the church offices was in Solihull, which was in my stake. It's not a mistake anymore. But he actually came with the letter and handed it to me, which was pretty cool because I didn't have to wait for it in the post. Yeah.
Hand delivered.
Yeah.
That's really unique. Wow.
But I don't know if your mums did this, but my mum pretty much guessed every place in the world that I could have been sent to. So she was like, yeah, I think you're going to go to Africa. I think you can go to this country, like every kind of country. So when it came and it was Scotland, she was like, yeah, I knew it. I knew it'd be Scotland. I'm like, well, of course you did, because you guessed every other country in the
world. I don't know that my mom did that, but that's pretty funny.
No, yes, that was it. But my brother, actually, he served in central London. He went, we didn't actually see each other for 4 years. So when I got my call, I think he was coming home. I think I went in the August and he was coming home, I think January or something like that. So we did actually miss each other. But it was actually really nice when we did see each other again, because it was like kind of like fighting, brotherly kind of like fighting love. And then when we saw each other again, it was like we're adults now. We'll try to be. So it was quite nice.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
So shall I start at the beginning of my mission then now, or?
No, let's skip over now. Give us time frame when you got your call and you were due to enter the MTC. At what time frame?
So August 2006.
Okay, so you entered the MTC in August of 2006.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means you came home August of 2008. Tell us about life since coming home.
Yes, so I came home August 2008. I was married in the January of 2009. Yeah, 9. Yes.
Did you have someone waiting for you?
She wasn't waiting for me. It was my wife. Funny enough, we knew each other because we were in the same ward.
Okay.
For a while, and then when I was in the MTC, she was there with her ward doing a temple session, and we hadn't seen each other in years. And she was like, "Oh, you're going on a mission," so she said she'd write to me. And it's quite nice because we got to know each other the old-fashioned way, you could say, just through letters.
Wow.
And I think we both had a feeling that we knew it was going to happen and we were going to get married, but we never spoke about it. So as soon as I got home, we were kind of like, that's it. This is it. Get it
That's
married.
great.
So that was quickly, yeah. And then, so when I came home from my mission, I did hairdressing, and I did hairdressing for a few years. Trying to probably about 3 or 4 years I did hairdressing still, but I became a salon manager of actually a supercut salon, which you're familiar from.
Yeah.
It's an American company, so it was over in England now. I'm not sure a lot of them are around anymore. But anyway, I became a salon manager because I thought I'm going to be a hairdresser and own a salon. That was kind of like my goal. And then when I was a manager, I realized this is not what I want to do with my life. And I had my daughter at the time as well. And it just made me think about my career path and what to change. So I actually went back to university. Well, not back to university. I went to university and became a primary school teacher.
Oh,
So
nice.
I did my degree in early childhood studies, and then I did my master's in education, and then my teacher training. Yeah, and that's it really. So done supply.
What years do you teach then?
I've done quite a lot. So for the past 5 years, I've pretty much taught. I actually tallied it up one time. I think I've taught in 37 schools because I quite like moving around.
Holy smokes.
So I quite like doing like a week at one school. So it's been quite good because I've been at like special needs schools. I was at a school for a year where it's a secondary school. So kids between 11 and 16, 15 go to, but it's the school where they get expelled. So usually they get expelled and they'll come to this school. So it's one where you can a lot of difficult kids, and you have to spend a lot of time with them with a lot of complex needs. So I've done that for a year, and then at the moment, my plan is to do my doctorate at the moment. So I'm just looking through doing that. So that's it, yeah. And I've got 3 kids. It's a bit weird because my daughter's 12, so I took her to her first gig a few months ago, and it was the first time I've been to a gig, and I've been like, wow, I'm getting old now. Because I was there with my daughter, and I was like, they all look like they're her age, and because I think my daughter looks like she's 16. But yeah, it's quite a fun experience when I was like, oh, I'm no longer one of the young ones.
Oh man, yeah, we are getting old. That's for darn sure.
I remember that moment for myself with the young men and being like, I'm Brother Bryce. And I'm like, oh man, I'm Brother Bryce. I'm not I'm not one of the youth.
That's funny.
That's too good.
It's nice at the same time because I think a lot of my friends I kind of meet outside the church, you could say, but a lot of them I really get on with. Sometimes some of them are like early 20s, and I kind of feel like a bit like a dad to them, and I actually really like that. I never thought I would, but I quite like it how they look up to you as this mature person. And I thought sometimes I do like it though.
That's right. Whether you're truly mature or not, they look up to you.
It's true.
For us kids at heart, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, yeah, take us back to the mission now. You can start the MTC, companion stories, anything in between, and go from there.
Okay. I'd say I have a really bad memory sometimes, so I did have to go over this to double check it. But yeah, so MTC, it was Preston, obviously went to, which is quite funny because it's obviously my home. Well, it was the stake I was living in. So a group in the Midlands, which was Coventry stake at the time. So usually we'd go to the London Temple. I don't know why they call it London Temple because it's not in London. It's like an hour below London. So the London Temple, the Preston Temple ones we usually went to. So when I went to MTC, it was a bit funny because it's like you've been there all the time, and now you're like living there for 2 weeks. Yeah, but I think with the MTC, I think it was a lot it's thinking back to it, I think it's a lot different to when you're actually in the mission field, isn't it? I think they tried to prepare you, but I think it's just a lot different. And what's great is I did have some great teachers. It's quite funny because someone in my stake who taught me, Brother Rushworth, I don't know if you had him, but he taught me in the MTC, and he's in my stake now. So I see him I actually saw him tonight.
It's pretty funny.
Which is quite funny because when I first saw him, I was like, "Oh, Brother Rushworth, you taught me in the MTC," and he just looked at me. And I was like, he doesn't remember me. I was like, it's fine if you don't remember me. And he said, no, I do remember you. He said, you just look old. So, well, that's what happens. So that's good. And then my first area, I'm going to have a look at my notes now, was Invergordon with Elder Guyman.
Oh, yeah.
And you were my first zone leader.
That's right. Oh
Elder Hewlett, yeah, with Elder Pattington.
Yeah, for sure.
So I see Elder Pattington's. I always see his mum at the temple usually because I don't know if she still works there, but last time I went there, I always see her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you're my first zone leader. I always thought it was funny with being in Invergordon because you get the train and it just keeps on going and you just on it for hours, but it's amazing. Like they've got amazing countryside in Scotland. Scotland really is like a beautiful place, especially northern Scotland.
Yeah.
So as Elder Guyman, who's great. The problem is sometimes when I think back to my mission, I think I do think with Elder Guyman, I was thinking I should have been a lot nicer with him. But I think when you're first out, you're kind of a bit arrogant, aren't you, on your mission? And but I thought he was a really good person, and he did teach me a lot. But also, I thought it was amazing because I think he's got like 11 sisters, I think it was.
I think you're right, yeah.
Which I was like, wow. I was like, so it was great learning from him. And then we actually closed the Invergordon area and moved to Glasgow and opened an area called Bear's Den.
Interesting.
It was called Bear's Den, right in the middle of Glasgow. So we lived in the flat with Elder Payne and Elder Biaka, who was the Swedish elder, Elder Biaka. I don't even know if I'm even saying his name right.
Yeah.
So we lived in a flat with them. So we we slept on the floor in their flat for like 3 months or something. So we opened that area in Bear's Den, and then Elder Guyman went somewhere else. And then I was with Elder Wilkinson from Liverpool.
Okay.
Who I actually saw him, oh dear me, must be like 8 years ago. But I saw him I think we're at Liverpool Stake visiting someone. And just so happened, I was sat there and he walks in. I'm like, oh, how are you doing? So it was really nice to see him, and he seems to be doing well. He's got a lovely family. Then after Elder Wilkinson Bear's Den, it was with Elder Harrison, the golfer Harrison. Always remember he was a great golfer. And we were sleeping on the floor there. I think we moved in with the zone leaders as well for a bit for that. And then
you're
after
on the floor for a whole 6 weeks and more.
More, yeah. It's quite funny when I think back to it.
What areas of Glasgow did Bear's Den? Is it Bear's Den? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's Bear's Den was called. So that was like Drum Chapel and the Bear's Den area. But Drum Chapel has a crazy history. It's quite interesting because my mother-in-law, I'm trying to think how to explain it. So my mother-in-law's brother-in-law is from Scotland, and he knows about Drum Chapel and grew up there because they had like a big ward there, and the chapel would just get vandalized all the time. So eventually they had to sell it, and the council bought the chapel, which is really sad. But I always found the people in Drum Chapel, that just the members there, even if they're active or not, were like the nicest. They were just really kind to us and would always let us in and have a chat for us, which I just thought was great. They're just really good people up there. So that was Bear's Den.
That's
and
cool.
when we moved in with the zone leaders for a bit with Elder Harrison, and then they closed Bearsden, and I got moved to East Kilbride with Elder Noble.
Okay.
Charles Noble?
I can't remember his first name.
It must have been.
I think there's a few.
Old Chuck.
He was older in the mission for you, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, he was. He came in. Yeah, he was in the same group as like Elder Lucas and Elder Harrison and
not Charles.
Okay, then he's younger than it's not that same Noble.
Yeah.
We were curious if it was one or the other.
Oh, he's from Idaho. My memory's so bad.
Okay.
But no, with Elder Noble, because I think it's funny with Mission. When I think back to it, I think the first stages of the mission, I think I did struggle. I think I struggled a lot. And I think when I got with Elder Noble, I kind of realized a lot more things about myself as well. And I think with me and him, and I'm sure he'd say this as well if you spoke to him, but I think we didn't really get each other at first. And I struggled to be honest with people. And it wasn't until I was with him that I think there were a few things that he did that like frustrated me. And I remember that we had like a companionship inventory, if you remember them, that used to have that. And I think it's like one of the first times I was kind of honest and being like, look, I have a problem with this. And it was really good because it revealed a lot about myself. And I was thinking a lot of these things that I'm saying is me. This is like a me problem because from my perspective. And then there's a few things that we're both doing. But when we did that, afterwards, we just got on so well afterwards. And I really had such a good time with them at the end. And it was really a good experience to go from kind of not having a good relationship at all and then leaving on a really positive note. And I really do owe a lot to Elder Noble for being with him because I do think he really did help me a lot during the few transfers we were together. I think it's probably 2 or 3, I'm guessing. But yeah, getting a bit emotional.
We've all had those like linchpin moments with a companionship inventory where you feel like you're just not getting on well, and then you say your piece, and then everything is so much better afterwards, right?
Yeah. And I think I know everyone would joke about it being like, this will help you with marriage, but like it really did, like at some times, because I think communication as well at church, like it's being able to talk to people honestly, but not have it but not kind of aggravating. It's having an honest conversation.
Yeah.
Like, look, I feel a bit like this, and coming to some kind of resolution and I think when you're allowed to talk openly about how you feel, I think that sometimes when you hear yourself, you're like, actually, I'm wrong. This is what, now I'm saying it, I'm completely wrong about this. So it could be the other way that the person understands. And it really is just communicate. It's quite funny that communication is just essential, isn't it? In everything you do, really, especially at church, like how you word things with people.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But no, so Elder Noble, and then I got with Elder Kofed for 2 transfers, and he was absolutely brilliant. Elder Kofed from Bountiful, Utah. I'm sure that's where he's from.
Was that still in East Kilbride?
Yeah, that was still in East Kilbride. Yeah.
Okay.
What was quite cool is the street we lived on. There's a band called Jesus and the Mary Chain. That this alternative obscure reference that I don't know if you've heard of them. Anyway, there's this Scottish band, and there's a band. There's another band called Primal Scream. That's actually a band called Primal Scream. Anyway, like one of the members from Jesus and Mary Chain joined Primal Scream band. So these were 2 bands that I liked, and I found out when I was living there that they lived on that same street, and they made a lot of their music then. So I thought that was really cool. It's an obscure reference, but I thought it was pretty cool.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, with Elder Coford, which is funny because when I listened to the podcast with Elder Coford, I was positive he was going to say I was the most awkward person he'd met, because that's what he said to me. It's like, you're one of the Elder Halford, you're one of the most awkward person ever. So I wasn't really sure if he liked me or not, to be honest. And then when I listened to the podcast, and I think the words he used was, Elder Halford, he's just a lovely person, and he used to cut my hair, and it's really nice to hear, because I had such a good time with him as well, and it's really nice to hear when people say something nice about you. And, and then but no, I absolutely love serving with him. And I feel like that point on my mission, kind of from Noble to Coford, I'm not saying about any of my other companions were bad at all, but I think for me personally, I think I grew a lot during that time, because I think I just struggled quite a lot with my mission at the beginning. I think kind of when I kind of came to that year mark and past it, I think it really did change me, and I think I was a lot more positive, and I think, yeah, I just felt like a better person. I felt like I was doing what the Lord wanted me to do. And I always remember some of my leaders talking about how the Lord molds you and changes you. And I really do feel like that part of my mission was vital to kind of shape me into a better person. I really do owe a lot to the people that I was with who helped me, like members and missionaries.
Awesome.
Anyway, I keep on. Sorry, I could just talk for ages, as I'm sure you know. So, yeah, I was still in Glasgow after a year, by the way. So then after that, I went to Springborg with Elder Huber from Austria.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I was so I was with Elder Huber and Springborg. We actually, I'm sure we closed that area, so that was another area I closed. Opened, no, yeah, just closed. And then from there, me and Elder Huber went to Airdrie, so it was Airdrie and Coatbridge together. They had 4 elders in there. So I'm sure I was only there for 6 weeks. That was a short time there. And then after that, I went with Elder King, who you've had on the podcast, haven't you? Because you served with Elder King, didn't you, Elder?
Yeah, I did. Yes,
he's one of those who benefited from the companionship inventory with Elder Hewlett. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's what he actually told me. I remember now.
No, yeah, I don't know. That was my own insecurities that were brought out in that instance, and Brandon and I have figured that out since then. But man, it was tough, and it was tough until we did. It was so funny.
Oh, that's brilliant! That is. Yes, I was with him in Cumbernauld for his last part of his mission. But Elder King, I listened to his podcast as well when he was on. But I really do think Elder King was just he was such a good person. I think the way he came across, I think people thought he was mental sometimes. But like when spending time with him, I was like I just always thought he was just a good person, really good man. And I was really glad that I got to serve with him. It was quite funny because he had like a good collection of stuff he collected from his mission. And I think some of the leaders wanted him to send it home. So when I got with him, I was like, well, let's just put it in a bag, because I was like, 6 weeks, I'm not going to ask you to send it home. Like, it's just ridiculous because you pay loads of postage for what? So we actually put it at church, this suitcase of stuff he had. And then the Zoe leaders came around looking for it, and they're like, where is it? And they looked around our whole flat and were like trashing it. Actually, I'm exaggerating just because it's a bit funnier this way. But they're like going around, where's this thing? Where's Elder King's box of stuff that he shouldn't have? Blah, blah, blah. And then they went under the stairs and they noticed that there's some screws on the wall. So both the Zonlies got really excited. They were like, oh, yeah, we know where it is now. So they're unscrewing these things on the wall and pull it off to realize there's nothing behind it.
Jeez Louise.
But and then Elder King took a suitcase home. But yeah, that was a story I always thought was hilarious.
So was this part of the Hammer Time movement at that point in time in the mission?
Yeah, it was just it all was in a box. It was like t-shirts and bags. It was like t-shirts, ties. It was nothing good, nothing like really. It was stuff like that he could send home, but he's got it. And I just thought it was ridiculous. So, but I just thought it was just their faces, like they were like kids getting sweets on like Christmas or something when they found this secret thing under the stairs. This is where it is, but it wasn't even in there.
Oh gosh. Well, you were smart to just pack it away at the church. I mean, you knew where it was, and it's not like anybody else is going to be going around looking for stuff at the church anyway.
And Brandon King was like, he was just like, yeah, let's just do that. He was like, yeah, I shouldn't have this, but yeah, I just thought it was funny. It literally was just like t-shirts and stuff. There was like t-shirts and pink ties or something ridiculous like that. Nothing exciting.
Oh, man. Goodness.
That's funny. And then so after Elder King, I love being in Cumbernauld Ward. I think there was some really good people. It's quite nice as well, like what I think is quite nice serving in the UK. There's kind of a bit of a stigma as well sometimes, how like if you're a missionary and you're serving in your own kind of country and state, I'm sure this is the same in America as well. Sometimes it feels like some people get disappointed, I think, by it. But for me, I think it's been really good for me because a lot of these people I see around, and it's really nice because it's kind of like you served in their ward, but now you're like friends, whereas before sometimes it's like, oh, they're a mission in our ward, whereas now it's like, oh, that's my friend. And it's really quite nice how you built up these friendships over the year and you still see each other. So it's really nice seeing people, especially from Cumbernauld at the temple and stuff. So
that is nice. I know Zack and I are envious of you guys getting to run into people. We don't have that luxury for sure.
Yeah.
In our conversations with those that came from the UK and from England and Ireland, they've all said, oh, it was kind of hard to go to Scotland feeling like it's so close and whatever. But there's been a number of those that have said that initially, that have said, in hindsight, it's been great, to be able to drive up there and to be in some of these places that, some of us in the States have only been back a few times, and then running into people at the temple and other places has to be just an awesome experience.
Yeah. No, it is. I do think we are very blessed. It's quite funny as well because my brother was saying when he served in London, he had his own conference, and if he stayed on the train for one more stop, it would have been the stop to go home.
Wow.
So it's quite funny. I thought it was quite funny as well being in Edinburgh. I was like, oh, I could just get on a train and go straight down to Derby where Vriens lived.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I mean, like I think Elder Loganberg said he'd moved down to Kent and got called back to Manchester where he grew up, and the mission home was on the same street as his parents' house. He was like, we got to go somewhere else, which ended up happening. But you really are. You're so close. Whereas for those of us who are from the States, the thought of going home is like, okay, I have to go to the mission home and get my passport, otherwise they won't even let me in.
It's true. You never know. We might need passports now to go to Scotland. You don't know how things will change in the future. But
yeah.
Oh, so after was it Elder King, Cumbernauld, and then I trained with Elder Patel in Cumbernauld. I think for 6. Yeah, I think just one transfer. He's from Gloucester. Yeah, he was amazing. I didn't even train him. He literally just came in. He knew the scriptures. Incredibly smart individual. Yeah, I literally did nothing. He was just amazing. We just worked so hard, and he's such a good person. It's really nice. I still need to meet up with him. I've been saying that I need to come and see him because he lives close to my cousins as well. But yeah, but no, he's just a really good person, Elder Patel. And then after that, I went up to Aberdeen as the zone leader with Elder Johnson. Also,
Full circle there.
yeah, finally out of Glasgow. And then I think Aberdeen in total, I think I was up there as a zone leader for 9 months. I'm sure it was.
Wow.
It was a long time, which is quite funny because the first start of my mission, it was kind of here, there, just kind of switching all the time. And then I was with, Elder Johnson. I think that must have been two moves. I remember it not being too long. And then it was with Elder Black.
Okay. Irish Elder Black, correct?
Yeah, Irish Elder Black, yeah. But no, Elder Johnson's just a really, really good person. Absolutely love serving with him. Just really good individual. And then it was quite odd because we're in Aberdeen Ward, but then we went over to Bridgerdon for a bit as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite funny because there's a member. I can't remember what their last names are. Is it Stevenson? Anyway, one of the members from Bridgerdon actually has moved to our stake as well. So it's quite nice to see. It's actually quite nice to hear the Scottish accent as well again, because I think you don't hear it too often. Even though we're only in England, you don't hear it too often. But I really like it when you get to hear it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I've missed someone out though, I'm sure, because I was with Elder Black and then I was with someone else, and I can't remember because I was only with them for 3 weeks, and it's so bad. But yeah, Elder Black, and then I was back to so Aberdeen for 9 months, Elder Johnson, Elder Black, someone else for 3 weeks, so I can't remember for some reason. That's so bad. And then I went to. For my last 6 weeks, I was assistant to the president with Elder Johnson again.
Nice.
And then, technically with Elder Lucas for like 2 days or something, and then Elder Ashton the last 2 before I went home. Yeah, it's quite funny in Aberdeen because I was there and I was kind of getting a bit fed up of being there for 9 months. And I remember speaking to President Fredrick. Well, I actually didn't even speak to him about him. I think I told the assistants, and I think the assistants were like, yeah, Elder Halford's wanting to go somewhere different or maybe having somewhere else. And President Fredrick took me in his office and spoke to me. And I'm trying to remember it word for word, but he basically said, oh, Elder Halford, I heard that you're wanting to have a new location or move somewhere else. And I was like, oh yeah, well, that would be nice. And he said, if you have to stay here and stare at the same tree, if it moves the work, that's where you're staying. And that was it. He said, and then he spoke about like it's Revelation and stuff. And he's saying, if this is what the Lord wants, then this is where you're staying. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm staying there. But it was really good, though, that he had that conversation with me as well. Because I was thinking, yeah, that's the right attitude to have. And that's the right thing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That's too funny. And then he stole you to the mission home.
Yeah. Which is quite nice in the last 6 weeks. It was really... but I do think it just really benefited me. Even though it was only 6 weeks, I feel that it was just great being around their sister and President Fredrick. Like, I just thought they were just really a good example of how to raise your family in the gospel. And I think when I think back to it, I think even just to be a man, like I think how he behaved and how he was with people, like I've just learned a lot from him, and he was a really good example to me, and especially his wife as well. They're both just really good examples to me, and that last 6 weeks I think really did help me, even though it was short. But I do think that the purpose of me being there was to help me and to have this good example really shown to me.
Yeah,
it was good. So pretty crazy. When I think back to it.
No, it's a great list of people that you served with, and more than anything, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts as because I guess you were there probably a transfer or two just after the Fredricks had started their mission. What was kind of your key memories of them and how they got on with the work as things move forward into their time there?
Oh yeah, I think because was it who was before President Frederick? Was it Vriens or can't
Yeah.
remember?
Brothers and Sister Vriens, yes.
Yeah, so I think just hearing from the other missionaries, the thing I always remember from President Frederick is it was just always about doing the right thing. I think regardless, and I think the shift happened as well because of the raising of the bar, wasn't it? Because I think a year or two before that, you had the raising of the bar, and I think but you've got the shift now, haven't you, as well in the church? Like they've moved. It's quite funny how it just things progress and change, especially like calling home. Like I remember calling my parents on like a cell phone, a big chunky brick you'd have, wasn't it? It was huge. And then that's changed now that you can call every week. It's just funny how the church, well, it doesn't change the doctrine, but it adapts to what's happening in the society. But yeah, I think with President Frederick, I think my main memories from him is a lot about leadership. And I think when I've had call-ins, I think I've learned a lot from him. Just because I remember him speaking to us one time, and he was saying when he employs people or employs someone to be in leadership in his area of work, he says he looks for two things. And I think one thing was a work ethic, and the second thing was, does this person get on with people? And when he spoke about work ethic, he says you can have these people amazing at their job, but they're awful to work with because they're great at the job and they know what to do, but they don't get on with people, so they're not going to get the best out of their team or people they work with. And he said you need both. And he said you got the other people who are great with people, but they can't really do their job. And he said like it's these two skills are really important, and that's really stuck with me because I think that actually is true. Like it's about getting on with people. You need to know how to do the work, but you need to get on with people to get the best out of them. And I think that with callings as well. But it goes back to the Gospels, like everyone's a child of God and everyone's important. And I think it's important that you give the respect and respect to each individual and see them as a child of God and someone who's unique and has feelings and not just someone who's going to do something for you. And I really have taken that, I think, in my callings, and I try to always see things from people's point of view and try to get on with them as well. But yeah, there's a lot I definitely learned from him, and I think one of the main things he used to always said was about following the brethren, like always follow the brethren and whatever the prophets say, and it really is true. Like you see with the general conference, it's just reminding ourselves what we should be doing.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's something I learned on my mission too, that they're spiritual principles, but it's truth and it applies spiritual or secular, like those, because it is true.
Yeah. I think as well, it's like, I think it's just amazing how it's why you need a prophet as well, how things have changed slightly. I think with COVID as well and the pandemic, things have had to change slightly, but you can see the benefits from them as well, but also focusing on what's most important as well. So I think sometimes you get caught up with like the little details in like activities, and it's like someone didn't put the cups out properly in an activity, or these plates are blue and they're meant to be red. Do you know what I mean? You could get, some people get like annoyed by these little deals when actually it's like, you know what, we're all here together, everyone's chatting, we've got people here introduced. That's more important. It's getting rid of these little details that don't really matter and focusing what's important really.
Yep.
That's very true. Very, very true.
So you talked about your companions and some of the impact that they had on you and the mission president. Were there other of your friends in Scotland, members that you remember, or investigators that you had that had an impact on your time there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's quite a lot. Actually, the Bews, Melanie Bew, she's in the stake above us.
Oh,
And
nice.
when the oh yeah, because you'll know the Bews, won't you, as well?
Of course, yeah.
So when actually, well, it was when COVID was happening, and so I left my wallet fell out of my car when we were getting a Burger King. I opened the door and the wallet like fell out on the floor, and I didn't realize. But a person picked it up, and it was right next to where Melanie lives. So I went and popped and said hi to her, and it was just really nice to chat to her and see her married and her kids and stuff. It's great. But yeah, I thought they were a great family, the Bews. What was really nice is when we went up to Aberdeen, I think this was a few years ago, but I saw the Mackenzies, which was nice. Which lovely absolutely amazing family in Invergordon. But what I thought was really nice is when COVID was happening, I actually went to the hospital for a week. Because I caught COVID and a few other people did in our school, and yeah, my oxygen was really low, so I was just off my head. I don't even know what was happening that week. But what was really nice is like Nicola Mackenzie like messaged me and said, "I'm thinking about you, and as a family, we're praying for you." And it was just really nice that after all these years, that people would still think about me, and it was just such a lovely thing. And I think at the time it was an awful time for me, but it was so nice to know that people still cared about me, and I think that's something I've always kind of struggled with, that people care. And it's just so lovely that the people that I've met from my mission still like contact me, and it's just really amazing, these like lifelong friendships you've got with people because of serving. Really, I think it's something I never thought would happen, but it's just amazing that you can pick up. I think that's, when you've got a true friend where you can just pick up where you left off, even if you haven't seen them in like 10 years, you would talk to them again and it's like nothing's happened. And
Yeah, I mean, it really is just as that, right? You have the opportunity to, I mean, even in these conversations, we're sitting down and it's been, 15 odd years with most of the people. And whether we know them well or not, we have that common bond and common people that we know, and we can laugh and, think about the good times we had with each of those people that truly have brought us all together in one facet or another. So I agree. And the miracle of technology now, like the fact that we're meeting here right now, you're sitting in Billingham and we're in Colorado, and this is just a really unique time for us to be able to utilize the technologies that we have to keep in touch with one another. And I love hopping on Facebook and seeing what's going on in the wards that I served in, and seeing some people have moved from one ward that I served into another, and just seeing some of those dynamic shifts, but they're still the same people. They're still sending messages and saying hello and wishing happy birthday and all those different things that just, it's nice to know that they enjoy seeing your face and seeing your life progress, but they still care just as well as if you were still in their ward.
Yeah, no, it's definitely lovely. It's great that you've got the Scottish flags up as well behind you. Just saw that. It's with I say the people we see quite a lot is the Burdens. I don't know if you remember David Burden, who's bishop in Edinburgh.
Oh, okay. I remember that name.
Yeah, so Heather and Dave. So they're ones that we see quite a lot because his parents are in our ward.
Okay.
And I get on with his brothers really well. And we actually stayed, because they've moved to California now, and we stay with them. But my wife grew up with Dave Burden. So you've got that connection as well. It's quite funny how we're all connected, especially with the Loggenbergs. Sorry.
Yeah.
So his sister, we get on really well with. Like my wife's been really good friends with her for absolute years. So it's quite funny also. So I've actually saw Cameron. Oh, I saw him at their wedding. That was it. At his sister's wedding, Megan's wedding. Yeah, that's when I saw him last. How funny is that? Yeah.
Brilliant.
all
Oh, man.
interconnected, aren't we? I think it's
Absolutely.
nice though, isn't it? Because it keeps you on your toes. You're like, I need to be in my best behavior because someone's going to show up at this wedding that I know.
Yes, I'm sure the church is all the more a small world in England and the UK than it is. I mean, it is kind of here as well. Maybe more the Intermountain West, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure you run into somebody who knows someone and you're connected in one way or the other. It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing as well. Like when we're in Utah, is this because this is so odd for me because growing up in England, like I was the only member in my school. No one knew anything about Mormons, as they'd say. And then it's quite funny, like when you go to Utah and you go to like the drive-through, and they're like, "Oh, where you from? England?" They're like, "Oh yeah, my dad served in England," and you'd have a chat to them. I was like, "This is so different to what I'm used to because that would never happen."
It's true. Yeah, that's for me. That's what I grew up in, and it was. There's positives and negatives to it, like anything else, but nonetheless, it really is. It's a totally different world than what we experience. I mean, I've reflected on it with Jack. I remember one of my first days out GQing in Peterhead, watching like a prepubescent boy smoking a cigarette, and I was like, "What in the world?" Because I had, that just didn't happen in Utah. It's not something that was a normal thing, but it was a cultural difference that I learned very quickly was a commonality in the UK. So pretty
Oh
funny.
yeah, smoking's like the group outside. Like it's like where everyone socializes as well. Even if you don't smoke, like you'll go outside and chat to the people. I think it's just part. I don't know. I don't even notice it, to be honest.
I'm sure it's just
I think it just happens all the time.
second nature, right? That's too funny.
Yeah.
So
One
Jack.
thing we heard from your companions, Tobias, that we've spoken to, and some of those who served around you, is that you in your leadership in the mission, some of what you brought in was I think to quote, was a kinder and gentler approach to missionary work. And I've really gotten that sense talking to you tonight. Like, just
thank you.
really nice.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Tobias, I was like, okay, he's a well-built guy, and I remember you're a pretty good footballer too, right?
Yeah, I thought I was good at basketball, and then I played with some Americans. I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely rubbish. Just because no one really play. Well, it's popular now, but yeah.
Well, and I remember early on too, the word got around that you'd worked in the salon and that you cut hair, and I was like, man, it'd be great to have him as a companion to cut my hair as opposed to the buzz cut that I gave myself every 6 weeks or so. But yeah, I mean, everyone talked highly of you, and that's why we're so grateful we're able to have some time to speak with you tonight. So
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
yeah.
Does mean a lot.
I'm curious because having spent 9 months in Aberdeen, was Bishop Goldie still the bishop at the time when you were there, or was someone else in that position?
Oh yeah, I think his son's the bishop now, or was the bishop, because the Natasha who was in our ward, or in our stake, she came from Aberdeen. So yeah, so it was Bishop Goldie, the dad, but I'm sure the son's the bishop now. I think it's Sean, is it, the one who plays bass?
Yeah. That's not surprising.
That's literally all I remember. He played bass, and yeah, played bass.
Sean was the ward mission leader when I was there, and so we had so much fun with him. He kept us fed. That was the biggest thing. Is we never had a night where we did not get a good meal, and I don't know. He was just awesome, and we had a lot of fun with him too. And
cool.
yeah, just a great group of people. I love their family to death. Obviously, you had not only Sean, but you had Scott and his family, and then the youngest daughter Hannah. She was there, and then Ryan had just gotten home from his mission too. I think he had gone over to the States for university shortly after I left. But Yeah, great family. Loved them to death.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. Do you remember? Was it Tommy Tomlinson as well?
Oh yeah,
Tommy.
Tommy, unbelievable man.
Literally everyone knows him. Like even in our stake, he's like this legend status that
Oh
every
yeah.
ward you go to, you'd be like, "Oh, serving in Scotland. Oh, do you know Tommy Tomlinson?"
Yeah, Tommy Thompson was unbelievable. He was always checking in on us, making sure that we were doing well, and yeah, just one of, like you said, a legend of the Aberdeen steak. Love it.
Oh, I'll have to think. Yeah, I'm sure there's the Goldies. It was definitely they were really good to us. Sean and his wife. I thought they just seemed like such good people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, remembering all these people, and now I'm like, oh, I've got a list to do now. I need to make sure I message these people and just say hi and see how they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and these people are all fresh in my mind because I've been going through journals and looking at videos and stuff that I've had. But Johnny Kennedy was newly back from his mission when I was there, and then you had Bob Glass and his mom that were there. I don't know if you remember them, but he was a newly returned missionary too. And I don't know, we had great fun. So many wonderful people in that ward. Besides, you know, being an American, loving the Paynes and the Reedies and all the other expats that are over there for the oil industry. They were all just so good in that ward. But yeah, I feel like you were a privileged one to have been in that ward for 9 months. I only got 6 months in that ward, and if I had 9 months, I probably wouldn't have gone home. I would have just stayed there. Such a good
It's
ward.
good. Aberdeen as well. It's because of the oil and stuff. I think it's quite an interesting place as well. Like historically, well, I think Scotland is in general as well. It's quite funny because obviously there's a lot of history between England and Scotland. Hundreds and hundreds of years of kings trying to take over Scotland and either way. So it's quite weird as well because we've got a thing called Hadrian's Wall
Hmm.
that comes across kind of like it's like an hour away from us. But anyway, this ancient wall that I think the Romans built to keep the Scottish out. And
Oh,
it's quite funny that you've got these like really random parts of history all scattered about between the two. Between the two places. It's quite funny though because some of the parts of the wall are just like in random bits of the city centre. So you like drive past some motorway, and you're like, oh, there's a random bit of Hadrian's Wall, just that the Romans built ages ago.
Wow.
that is interesting.
Yes, there's a lot, but it definitely Scotland. I think it's just I think it's a great place, and a lot of the bands I love are all from Scotland as well. And I think, I really do have some really good fond memories of serving there. I think as well the problem is I think because of that rivalry with my accent and my last name Halford is a very English name, isn't it? And the way I speak, some of the Scottish would hear me, they'd be like, "Oh, you're one of them."
Oh
um,
man, that's
but
too
no,
good.
joke. Glasgow. I think Glasgow. They're such a funny sense of humor as well. Like some of the stuff that they'd say
Oh yeah.
when you like opened your mouth and then you English, they just like took the mick out of you. But it's just funny. But then afterwards, like in Glasgow, they're like if they'd take the mick out of you, but they'd be like, you're one of our friends still. Like we're
Right.
just teasing you, which I always thought was really nice because I just thought it was funny.
I mean, they do the same to some of us Americans too. They'd like put you on the spot and be very upfront to you, and then you'd feel kind of uncomfortable and awkward for a moment. And then they'd just start laughing at you, and then you could laugh with them because you're like, okay, I get it now. There's they're making fun of the fact that you're in a foreign world. You're
Yeah, yeah.
you're nowhere close to home. So I remember having that experience a few times.
I think it's funny as well because with I think even with sense of humor, like considering England's and the UK's really small, it's like there's even different sense of humours between the two and cultural differences. Same with like America and England. Well, state from state, isn't it? Really, each state it's kind of like slightly different. I think sometimes we forget that there's more cultural differences than we recognise. but
Yeah.
it's nice. I think people are just fascinated, and I think the world is just interesting. And the thing I always thought was a great by I forgot his name now. Anyway, can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, one of the former apostles, he was saying how the church is like an orchestra. And he says everyone has their own unique sounds, but when we all come together for one purpose, we create this beautiful music. And I think that with society as well, I think it's good that we're all different and unique.
Yeah.
And when we come together, I always think that was a great way of describing it.
Yeah,
I can't believe I've just said that, and I can't even remember his name. I know it because of a W.
I'm sure the moment we hang up, you'll remember.
I'll be up all night now. Like,
Nice.
what is that name?
Well, Tobias, we really appreciate you taking time. You've named some great missionaries. Is there any of them in particular that you're still close in contact with that you'd like to hear from? We'd love to have you extend an invitation in our behalf to have them come on and share their experiences with us.
I think. Well, I think the one would be really interesting is Elder Huber,
Okay.
from Austria. Just because I think Austria just looks like an amazing. I've never been, but I was always interested to hear from him and how life is in Austria and stuff. But but a lot of them, Elder Lucas, I kind of message here and there. Absolutely love hearing from him. It's just lovely seeing people on Facebook with families and kids, and I just think it's so nice to see that people are doing all right.
Yeah.
I think Elder Huber would be interesting.
Do you know Elder Huber's first name?
Oh, I can't even remember. I forgot one of the companions I had for 3 weeks.
No worries. We'll
It's
figure it.
bad.
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
It's so bad because I absolutely love serving with him, and he's from California. He had such a cool accent, and everything he did was like it's the kind of like stereotypical view England people have of California, like the person who goes surfing, skateboard, and they can do all these things. They just hang out at the beach every day, which is probably not true, but in some degree it is.
Having lived in
Elder
California,
Nelson.
100% true.
Elder Nelson. I'm sure it's Elder Nelson. It must be Elder Nelson.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, he was amazing for 3 weeks, even though I forgot his name this whole time.
And you got it in the end here.
That's right. Oh man. Well, yeah, we've really enjoyed the conversation. You know, by all means, share this. We'll have it published here within the next few days. So certainly share it with anybody and everybody that you come across. And the invitation is open to any of those that we haven't yet spoken to. I can tell you I have been in touch with Jeremiah Johnson, and he will be on in the future.
Amazing.
I do need to get in touch with Matt Guyman. He was one of my favorite people on the mission as well. And
yeah, imagine how big his family is now if they're all married.
I mean, who knows? He may not even want to keep up with it because there's so many of them. You get lost in the shuffle pretty quick.
They'll have their own state soon. They'll just take over the Guyman state.
Yes, I'm sure that's very possible. Well, good. Well, Tobias, again, we really appreciate you. We love you, and we appreciate more than anything you taking time out of your evening to speak with us a little bit more about the Scotland Edinburgh Mission. And don't be a stranger. Let us know if there's anyone that comes up or any people that come to mind that you'd like us to track down. We'll certainly do our best, and vice versa. If you share this and people want to know, I will just remind everybody, send us an email at SEMpodcast@51spylaw.com or go to the website 51spylaw.com, and you can fill out a contact sheet. Or, as I said in our last podcast, we will find you and we will invite you until you want to come and join us, because these are just too much fun. We've loved every minute of it. So
We love member referrals.
that's right.
Some things don't change.
Giant referral program. Well, thanks again, Tobias. Again, we love you. We'll certainly talk to you
Thank you
again
very
soon,
much
mate.
for having me. It's been amazing. Thank
All
you.
right.
Really.
Cheerio, mate. See ya.
See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.